what is the breakdown here and what is important considerations for those who are trying to make an internal push for joining What's Possible?
So we outline here minimum contributions. Of course, folks can feel free to offer more than what was asked for as the threshold here, but these are minimum contributions that allow us to move substantive money and resources to young people while also learning and building out accountability and planning. And so we're asking that these are these thresholds. These are the thresholds. So we start with organizations that have grant making or annual giving budgets of over 10 million US dollars, that we ask that you start with a minimum commitment of 200,000 US dollars. For organizations that have annual giving under $10 million, we ask that you join with a minimum contribution of 100,000 US dollars. And then this category, the NGO and intermediary category, is also critically important to us because we know that most young people get their first grants not from large private philanthropic institutions, but from INGOs, from intermediaries, from organizations in the UN system. And so we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to join. And so the threshold for those organizations is 75,000 US dollars. Now, what this covers is a contribution to What's Possible. 70% of that contribution will go to grant making. So of your contribution for the first, if you make $100,000 contribution, $70,000 of that funding will go to young people and the work that they organize, based on the way the young people that we gather to support us in that, how they make those decisions. So that will go to grant making. 25% of that will go to operational costs to support the virtual learning sessions, the outreach, and all of the work that goes into pulling off a call for proposals. And then finally, 5% of that is committed and earmarked for We Trust Youth accountability work. And that felt critically important because, it's again, the argument we always make is we not only do we learn by moving money, we put our money where our commitments are. And if our commitment is to accountability, then it was critically important to us that a part of the funding that was gathered in the name of this work went to long-term sustainable accountability for movements. So that's where we are. Now we know that folks, that's a minimum contribution. We invite folks to make contribution for larger amounts. Any contribution, for example, that's made to CRIF that's beyond the 1 year period that What's Possible will go on, will go into CRIF's work, which also where we move money and resources to young people in many different ways, which we can share at another time. And we also ask that folks, in addition to joining What's Possible, fund We Trust Youth. We need a body of accountability that's not just a one-off, but that is a sustained conversation with the sector about how it's meaningfully engaging with young people. And the only way that we can do that is to fund that work. That requires resources, it requires time, it requires thought and strategy. And so we invite folks to join What's Possible at the thresholds we've laid out here. Whether it's that it's a 1 year commitment or a multi-year commitment. Of course, we always love multi-year commitments. And in addition to that, and we invite you to make an ongoing and consistent commitment to We Trust Youth, because what that allows is that this work is sustainable. The first question many of you will ask on your grant proposals when we are asked to fill out a form in order to be able to receive the funds for this work is going to be, how is this work sustainable? And so we put that question back out to the sector. How is this work sustainable? And without a firm commitment by the sector to its own accountability, it's not. So we invite folks to join What's Possible for the learning, for the planning, for the funding, for the accountability, but then also fund We Trust Youth, because that ensures that we have an ongoing mechanism for accountability in the sector that has been long asking for that. And so then the final thing I'll say is that we know that each institution that might come to What's Possible will come in different ways. Some folks will be able to join by making a grant. Some may pull this out of their professional development dollars or their commitments to equity, or it may be that it comes out of a contract. We are open to any of those configurations. And we hope that when you come to the point of trying to figure out how that you'll engage us, that you'll reach out to us, you'll schedule a call, you'll send us an email so that we can work through the questions you have. What we would hate to know is that folks are talking themselves out of joining before they've ever engaged with us. We're happy to talk. We're happy to have a conversation. So please reach out. You can reach out to us at what'spossible@criffund.org. At any of our email addresses. And as Emily is putting up here, we have information sessions that we'll be having ongoing until we reach our goal, which is $1 million to go out to youth movements.